Well, what do you know? It's 3 more points for FC Barcelona. It wasn't pretty against Elche on the road, but this is a new Barcelona. And while we won't be rejoicing how well or how amazing they played in that match, still, 3 points, that's what it comes down to. It's something to celebrate. So here we go. 5 headlines from Barcelona's 2-1 win over Elche in La Liga. One is Barcelona's left side. Let's start with how this game ended, and that's the fact that Barcelona's left side is why this game ended with 3 points for Barcelona and not just 1. In that first half, Jordi Alba was completely pinned back by Elche and Xavi at left wing. That experiment did not work today, especially in the first 45 minutes. Here's where I give my first piece of credit to Elche, because that 4-5-1 medium to low block completely neutralized Xavi. There are times with him on the left wing this season where he has added balance. But today he was asked to add width, he was asked to combine in the middle, and he was asked to drop in when necessary. And Elche just almost completely marked him out of this game. A well done job by them to step together. That back line would step, that midfield line would step, and then the strikers were also bringing the pressure where Xavi would have to start his movements to drop in a lot earlier than he was expected. He couldn't just toe that line where he could say to Piqué or Rajo, hey, maybe I could be hit in behind like this. Xavi wasn't getting in behind that back line, and that's a credit to Elche as much as it is that Xavi is really out of position at that left wing spot, as evidenced today. You do get the thinking, though, of why Xavi started on the left wing. Memphis isn't fully fit yet to start, even though he has 2 goals. Ansu was out injured, of course, and Ferran Torres needed his turn to get a rest, both physical and mental. But at halftime, Xavi had to do something, and Torres was the right move. His ability to find the small pockets of space along that back line gave Elche more to think about. And if not for Edgar Badilla, more on him later, Torres would have had a second in this game. And this result, unlike that match against Alaves earlier in the season, felt like a game that Barca should have had with a few different what-ifs. If Ansu plays on the left wing, Barca dominate this game, potentially 3-1 that first half. If Torres starts, maybe Barca get the winning goal. But where we lose those what-ifs is that Barca have the depth, they have the options, and they have the ability to make changes when something's not working. Gavi's a great player and is going to be a starter for Barca for a long, long time. But him on the left wing today wasn't really working. And Jordi Alba today wasn't until that second half, until that space was finally open for him to exploit. Even Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, today just wasn't his day. The service provided just wasn't enough. Elche, because they poured so many into the middle of the field, Aubameyang isn't the guy who's going to drop in and combine and then make that run in behind. There were a few times when Aubameyang found space, but by and large, he just wasn't able to make an impact on this match. But, as I said, Xavi have so many different options. And the choices he made by putting Torres in for Xavi, which again feels like a no-brainer, but he was able to get Torres that rest. And that's going to pay dividends, hopefully, for later in this week before the international break at the end of the month. So Barcelona do survive because Xavi made the right decisions after taking a risk. I want to thank OneFootball for sponsoring this video. OneFootball is the app I use to keep myself up to date on all things FC Barcelona, everything I need to know, as well as check on every other team that Alemany could be scouting right now for a big summer transfer window. With a custom-tailored homepage, stay up to date with breaking news, live scores, and even transfer news. While on the go, you can check with matches in live time and watch videos afterwards. Use the link in the description for a free download of OneFootball on Android or iOS to put all of your football in one place. And you'll help out a tiny Barca channel too. Thanks to OneFootball again for sponsoring this video. Now back to the Barca business. 2 is Scrappy Elche. Fidel was the man today for Elche. He's the guy that, just like Elche, I don't give enough credit to in the Liga. Yeah, it was only his 4th league goal of the season, and it was Pedri's worst mistake of the season, trying to clear, but it goes backwards and easily picked up by Fidel. But I think he still earned that goal for Elche. He was the danger man, playing in front of that home crowd. You just felt like against 38-year-old Dani Alves, who for the first time this season truly looked 38 or older. In transition, it was Fidel. And sometimes the guy on the other team, he's feeling it too. For those who follow these videos and the podcast, you know I usually don't give Elche enough credit. I usually pick them to get relegated, but they're 14th in the table. Not entirely safe, but not too shabby either. You understand how difficult it is for all these teams in the Liga to break down their 4-5-1. And Diego Gonzalez, big credit to him, saves a goal off the line. The best transition opportunity up to that point for Barca. Frankie at the center of it. Aubameyang and Dembele adding as well. And Elche, the reason why they're in 14th in the table comes down to the Catalan in net. Of course, he's an Espanyol guy, but Edgar Badilla made sure that Elche weren't completely blown out in this game to the final whistle. They could have certainly gotten a result against Barcelona. 3 is Dembele in focus, so let's head back up the field onto that right wing for so much of the first half. You saw that it was all going to come through Dembele. 10 minutes in, he gets a shot off that could have been something. Then 10 minutes later, Ter Stegen finds him over the top that leads to an Alba shot. And when I try to figure out why Dembele wasn't more efficient, certainly those giveaways in the midfield were one of those big reasons. He had some of the worst giveaways that he's had in a few weeks. But behind him, Alves looking 38 just meant that Barca were too slow in transition. Elche was compact enough through the middle to nullify Alves' build-up help when he drifts into the midfield. And that surely affected Dembele, where he not only was dealing with a double team, but a triple team for so much of that first half. And Alves wasn't able to get into those spaces quick enough because he had to worry about Fidel, which he did, because Fidel was always going to be coming in behind that space that Alves and Dembele were occupying. And this is another one of those instances where when a defense is really focused on you and you alone, can Dembele be the match winner? The answer is yes sometimes, the answer is no sometimes. But what I will say, here's the positive note, that Pedri, who had his worst match since he returned from injury, and Dembele, who had his worst match in this string of good form that Barca had been in, Barca still won this match. They still got the victory, even with two of their most influential and impactful players not having their best matches. And that is nothing but a positive thing. 4 is anxious moments. This game was full of anxious moments, but for both teams. That's why it ended 2-1. That's why it could have been an Elche win. It could have been a Barca win by even more than 2-1. The Morente shot, I think about in the first half, certainly could have gone in the back of the net if not for Ter Stegen. And his performance today, while he was bad on the Fidel goal for sure, his save on the top corner in the second half kept this game 1-1. They also, as I keep saying about this new version of Barca, keep creating their own luck. So that meant that they put pressure on and created anxious moments for Elche. Just today, things didn't go Elche's way, especially in the VAR. Memphis pressure earns the VAR reviewed penalty, creating an anxious moment for Elche. And the PK, though, there's nothing anxious about that. Memphis left no doubt, almost a perfect PK into that top corner. Barca's leading goal scorer picking it up again. 2 goals in 2 matches for him since his return, coming on as a substitute. And then the 2 late shouts for handball against Barca. Alba, then Busquets, definitely not a handball on either occasion. And then again, Ter Stegen, a final anxious moment. It was offside, sure, but Ter Stegen coming up big with that save. Even if it wasn't offside, nothing was getting past Ter Stegen in the last 5 minutes of that game at least. He's got to have these big moments, and he did. Ter Stegen had more big moments today than he could have been better on that goal. So today is a day, I know Ter Stegen has not been good lately, but today's a day where I'm going to defend the German goalkeeper. And 5 is the fight for top 4. No offense to Elche, but this match wasn't about Elche. This is being recorded before Real Betis against Atletico Madrid, but this match was all about how this result would influence that one later. Real Betis with a victory over Atleti could still overtake Barca for 3rd in the table, but with a victory, they keep pace. If it's a 1-1 draw, that's a win for Barcelona. If Atletico gets the win, I don't know in the long run if that's a win for Barcelona, because Atletico, I think, had the opportunity and the ability to sustain good results a little bit better than Real Betis might for the remainder of this season. But for Barcelona, they can just take care of business with the teams in front of them, and they did that on the road against a team in Elche that has been giving Barcelona some trouble of late. Even if they haven't beaten them since 1974, they've been awful close the last few times. But these are the kinds of matches that are continued to define where Barcelona end this season. A month and a half ago, Barcelona either lose or draw this match. No doubt in my mind. The way that they were a month ago, they just didn't have options. Xavi would look at his bench and go, I don't really have that thing that's going to change this. But this, after January transfer window, we keep talking about, this team is deeper, this team has defined roles, this team has a defined style, and a talented enough squad with a talented enough and healthy enough bench that Xavi has so many options to win a game over the course of 90 minutes. It could be a different story against Galatasaray in the Europa League midweek, and it could be a different story in El Clasico a few weeks from now, when the teams are just a bit more talented, and Galatasaray, well, I'll preview them midweek. They're not necessarily any better than this Elche side at the moment, but I'm speaking, of course, about El Clasico and some of the big opponents, those big games that Barcelona have to win in the pressure moments. But with the exception of Athletic Club and Valencia, and I guess Napoli too, Barcelona have strung together a few big matches, but the competition is going to continue to rise if Barcelona are going to be more and more comfortable in that top 4 finish. And we'll be here for all of it. There's so much coming out this week on the channel, whether it's this match review. We've got 2 podcasts, of course. There's a Pablo Torre feature that I have, the young Racing Santander midfielder who is signed for Barca B over the summer, as well as a Galatasaray preview and then that match review as well. So there's so much content. Make sure you subscribe, give us a like so you don't miss any of it. And until next time, as always, Forza Barca.